Olá, pessoal! Tudo bem? Sejam bem-vindos e bem-vindas ao canal Inglês de Verdade. Hoje você ouvirá um pequeno podcast para testar seu listening em inglês. Após ouvi-lo, você responderá 5 perguntas sobre o assunto falado para testar a sua compreensão. Fazendo isso, além de praticar seu listening, você ainda vai ganhar vocabulário em inglês. Caso queira, você pode ativar a legenda em inglês que está disponível no vídeo. Então, vamos começar!
Okay, let's dive in. Something I know lots of you are thinking about.
Yeah.
What's the best way, the real way, to learn a new language so it actually sticks?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all know about grammar, vocab lists. They have their place, sure, but today we're getting into something maybe even more crucial, immersion.
Exactly. Having that foundation is helpful, definitely. But really getting a language, letting it sink in, that often comes down to how much you can just surround yourself with it.
Right.
And the cool thing is, you really don't need to live abroad anymore. Not with all the resources we have now.
That's the mission for this deep dive then, exploring those practical ways you can build your own little immersion bubble wherever you are.
Yeah.
We've been looking at this great resource, Texto Colado, which lays out some really smart ideas for doing just that. So, okay, where do we start? How do you build this world?
Well, a really good starting point, and honestly, often the most fun one, is just watching stuff.
Like series and movies.
Yeah, series, movies, even, YouTube videos, TikToks, anything that grabs you. The key thing here is you get to see how people actually talk.
Not just the textbook examples.
Exactly. You get the real rhythm, the slang, the everyday phrases, stuff that grammar books might just gloss over.
Oh, totally. I mean, you can learn a word's definition, but seeing it used in context with the right tone, that's when it clicks, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Texto Colado actually suggests a pretty clever way to progress with this.
Okay.
Start with subtitles in your own language, just to get the story, the basic gist.
Makes sense. So you're not totally lost.
Right. But then, the important step, switch to subtitles in the language you're learning.
Oh, okay. So hearing it and reading it in the target language.
Yes. And that does something powerful in your brain. It forces that connection between the sound and the written word. It helps you pick up vocab much faster than just memorizing lists.
I can imagine that's a bit of a workout at first, though, trying to keep up with both.
Oh, it can be, definitely. But that's kind of the point, that mental effort. That's where the real learning happens. Like the source material says, it's a huge leap for your brain.
A good kind of leap, though.
A very good kind. And the ultimate goal, eventually, is to turn the subtitles off completely.
Right, relying just on your ears.
And your eyes for the visual cues. It really strengthens your listening comprehension.
Okay, I see that progression. Native subs, target subs, then no subs. Kicks things up a notch. So what about when, our eyes need a break?
Good question. That's where audio immersion is fantastic. Music, for instance. It's actually a pretty powerful tool.
More than just background noise.
Way more. You get repetition, you absorb pronunciation without even trying sometimes, and lyrics often have cultural bits hidden in them too.
Yeah, I've definitely caught myself humming songs in languages I barely speak, and suddenly a phrase just sticks in my head.
That's exactly it. And beyond music, podcasts are, invaluable.
Because it's real conversation.
Often, yeah. Unscripted talks, discussions, interviews. Plus, you get exposed to all sorts of different accents and ways of speaking. It trains your ear without you consciously having to sit down and study accents.
So it's not just about getting used to that one, perfectly clear voice from a language course CD.
Not at all. Real life isn't like that, is it? It's messy. And Texto Colado had some good tips here, too. Pick music, you actually maybe look up the lyrics.
Yep.
And for podcasts, find topics that genuinely interest you. Maybe start with ones that aren't super fast-paced. Just keep yourself motivated,
That makes total sense. Keep it enjoyable. Now, this next idea seems almost too simple, but I get why it works. Changing your digital environment.
It seems small, doesn't it? But the effect really adds up. Think about your phone, your computer, your social media apps like Instagram or Netflix.
They all have language settings.
Exactly. Switch them to your target language. Suddenly, all those menus, buttons, notifications, they're in the language you're learning.
So instead of seeing settings or like or play next, I'm seeing the equivalent in, say, Spanish or French. Every single time I unlock my phone.
Precisely. Think how many times a day you see those common words. It turns those quick glances into tiny learning moments. Texto Colado calls it natural memorization.
I like that. Natural memorization.
You're not drilling flashcards. You're just using your stuff. You learn because you need to navigate it. It really accelerates picking up common words and phrases.
That's brilliant. It's like constant low-level exposure. Okay, so we're watching, we're listening, our phones are secretly teaching us. What about good old-fashioned reading?
Ah, yes, reading. It offers something different again, but just as vital. It lets you slow down. You can really look at the words, see how sentences are built, maybe look things up you don't know. Great for vocab building and reinforcing grammar.
And the source suggests a progression here too, I bet.
It does. Start simple. Children's books, maybe graded readers, things adapted for learners. Then, as you get more comfortable, move towards, regular books, news articles, whatever interests you.
Sensible. You wouldn't want to start with, like, War and Peace in Russian on day one.
Probably a bit much, but even a simple story helps cement basic structures, and Texto Colado specifically mentions comics and manga, too.
Oh, yeah, because of the pictures, right?
Exactly. The visuals give you so much context, you can often guess the meaning just from what's happening in the panels. It's a great bridge.
Makes understanding less intimidating. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ways to kind of absorb the language passively. But the source stresses there's one thing you can't really replace.
Yes, the big one, actually talking.
The often scary, but yeah, totally essential part, real conversation.
Nothing beats it for making the language yours, for building real fluency. Texto Colado suggests things like finding language exchange partners online. There are loads of platforms for that.
Like Tandem or HelloTalk?
Exactly those. Or Speaky is another one. Or finding tutors, joining study groups, anything where you actually use the language interactively.
Which is amazing if you can connect with native speakers.
Yeah.
But what if finding someone is difficult? Or you just feel too shy at first?
That's a really fair point. And the resource actually gives a great tip for this. Don't underestimate talking to yourself.
Really, just chatting away on my own.
Absolutely. Practice saying things out loud. Repeat lines you heard in a show. Describe what you're doing during the day. It sounds maybe a bit odd, but it builds muscle memory for your mouth and confidence for your brain.
Gets you used to forming the sounds in sentences. Okay, I can see that. So we're doing all these things, watching, listening, reading, talking, even to ourselves. How do we make sure it actually adds up? How do we make it stick?
Right. That's where structure comes in, the idea of a conscious immersion routine. Meaning, as Texto Colado points out, setting aside specific time, maybe daily, maybe a few times a week, dedicated time just for language exposure.
So like scheduling it in, 30 minutes of listening here, 20 minutes of reading there.
Precisely. Making it a deliberate part of your day or week. And the key thing our source highlights here is consistency over intensity.
Okay. So better to do 15 minutes every day than like 3 hours just on Saturday.
Much better, generally speaking. It's that daily repetition, even short bursts, that really lets the language settle into your brain long term, like building any habit, really.
That makes a lot of sense. Small steps regularly. Now, something that holds a lot of people back, myself included sometimes, is that fear of messing up, making mistakes. How does immersion help with that?
Well, Texto Colado frames this in a really positive way. If you're truly immersing yourself, you will make mistakes. It's inevitable.
Right.
But that's not bad. Mistakes are actually feedback. They show you exactly what you need to work on. They're like essential signposts on the learning path.
So instead of freezing up, because I might say it wrong, I should see it as data. Like, okay, that didn't work, need to adjust that.
Exactly. See it as part of the process. The people who learn fastest are often the ones willing to just try, to speak even when they're not 100% sure, to ask questions, to, as the source says, just go for it.
I like that. Just go for it. Embrace the wobble.
Immersion creates that space where mistakes feel more natural, less like failing a test.
Okay, great mindset shift. So we're immersing, we're being consistent, we're embracing mistakes. How do we stop it feeling like homework? How do we keep it fun?
The fun factor.
Yeah.
Crucial. And this is where you connect it to what you already love.
How so?
Texto Colado gives great examples. Love cooking. Find recipes or watch cooking shows in your target language.
Ooh, okay.
Big into gaming. Switch the language settings on your game. Passionate about fashion or tech or sports or travel. Find blogs, videos, podcasts about those topics in the language.
Right. So you're not just learning the language in a vacuum. You're using it to engage with things you're genuinely interested in anyway.
Exactly. It stops feeling like study time and starts feeling like just enjoying your hobbies, but through a different linguistic lens. You pick up relevant vocab and phrases almost by accident because you're engaged.
This really paints a much more achievable picture of immersion. It's not just about moving country. It's about strategically building this environment around you.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that's the core message from Texto Colado, fundamentally. Learning through immersion is just natural. It's how kids learn their first language.
Through constant exposure and trial and error.
By listening, copying, messing up, trying again.
So the more we expose ourselves, listening, reading, watching, speaking, the quicker we'll start to understand, and the more confident we'll feel trying to communicate.
That's the idea. So the call to action is pretty clear, I think.
Dive in.
Dive in. Change your phone language today. Watch that show tonight with the target language subtitles. Find a podcast for your commute tomorrow. Pick up a comic. Sing along badly to a song.
Make it part of the fabric of your day, even in small ways.
Exactly. Just weave it in. And, over time, you might just amaze yourself. You'll start understanding things, picking things up, often without even noticing the effort. It's this gradual, sometimes subtle, but ultimately really powerful transformation.
E aí, como foi? Conseguiu entender bem o podcast e responder as perguntas? Espero que sim. Se você curtiu esse tipo de prática, já deixa o like, se inscreve no canal e ativa o sininho para não perder os próximos vídeos. Aqui no Inglês de Verdade, a gente está sempre trazendo conteúdos que realmente ajudam no seu aprendizado. Muito obrigado por assistir e nos vemos no próximo vídeo. See you soon!
E se você assistiu até aqui e quer aprender inglês sem gastar um centavo durante todo o processo de aprendizagem, com acesso a ferramentas, atalhos e mentoria que vai fazer com que você absorva o inglês de forma rápida e natural, eu te convido a conhecer o método dos 9 Passos para a Fluência, onde você vai conhecer a forma correta de aprender um inglês
Now we can go in the water.
com acesso a ferramentas que irão te auxiliar nesse aprendizado. E o melhor, todas encontradas de forma gratuita. E entre essas ferramentas, uma você usará para manter contato com nativos do inglês para que sua prática de conversação seja mais eficaz. Porque nada melhor do que absorver o inglês diretamente da fonte. E quando eu digo que essas ferramentas são gratuitas, eu não quero dizer que apenas o primeiro mês será grátis, como degustação, e que se você quiser continuar usando, você terá que pagar. Todas as ferramentas que serão apresentadas a você nesse método são gratuitas para o resto da vida, até quando você quiser usar. Esse método é perfeito para você que não tem ideia de como e por onde começar, e para você que já tem um conhecimento em inglês, mas ainda não conquistou a fluência. Nele você será apresentado a atalhos que vão acelerar seu aprendizado, que estudantes que estão começando não fazem ideia que existem. 99% das pessoas que colocarem esse método em prática, seguindo passo a passo, conseguirão realizar seu sonho de se tornar fluente em inglês. Então, se você acha que finalmente chegou a hora de realizar seu sonho e dominar de vez o inglês, clique no primeiro link da descrição, que eu tenho certeza que você não vai se arrepender.